Well, just the dynamics of cities are so completely different. The patterns of urbanization are really powerful around the world. We know that commute times are increasing, the density of populations and the byproduct that comes with it, congestion and pollution, all of those things are things that are top of mind for us. And we don't think that they're necessarily going to get better per se, because there's something like 20 plus megacities around the world, populations that have 10 million people or more. But in the coming decades, demographers say that that number will go to 50. And if you live in a megacity like Beijing, the average commute time is 5 hours a day, right now in the year 2015. And so adding more vehicles to the road is not going to be the solution for Ford Motor Company, or at least that's how Bill Ford, who's the great-grandson of Henry Ford, and the chairman of our board has already laid out. I think quite provocatively, he's declared that having spent much of his life thinking of how to sell as many cars as possible, he's starting to worry what happens if we continue to sell as many cars as possible. And his solutions are really grounded in that smart mobility solutions, that we can use vehicle-to-vehicle communications to kind of ease the flow of traffic. Vehicle-to infrastructure will also be another tool. We're rethinking ourselves, and our new CEO, Mark Fields, who's been in place for just over a year, is talking about fundamentally, we want to be an innovative company that makes people's lives better, and that means we have to think of ourselves not just as a manufacturer of automobiles, but as a provider of mobility. In the end, I think all of these things will be the building blocks that get us that much closer to autonomous driving vehicles. So the generation cohorts are really fascinating to me. They're based on the premise that the values that every individual holds were shaped when they were relatively young, the formative years, which are considered your late teens and early 20s. And marketers for many decades now have been using generational cohort insights to kind of better target their customers. And Generation Z will be no different. This is the youngest generation. They're not a universally recognized cohort because they're still about 21 and younger. But they are really making their mark in the world in interesting ways. You know that old saying that good things come to those who wait? Gen Z's never heard of that. They believe good things come to those who act and act now, and they're doing so in really surprising ways. I mean, I guess if you were to compare them to millennials, for instance, millennials were a very accomplishment-oriented generation. They were told if they achieved academic excellence in school, they took on extracurricular activities, they were engaged in community service. If they dotted all their I's and they crossed all their T's, when they hit the job market, employers would greet them with open arms and open wallets, that they would be extremely well received. And sadly, in the wake of the recession, many of the youngest millennials find themselves unemployed or underemployed. For Generation Z, though, they're looking at it and they're now much more likely to question the return on investment in higher education. I think what's more exciting, though, is that they also believe that they don't have to have a degree to start a business. We featured earlier this year a serial entrepreneur who is 12 years old. His name is Davis Barrow, and he's had 4 companies already. And I'm not talking like lemonade stands or newspaper routes. These were computer hardware and computer software companies. He even has a team of employees that he hires. Well, he's based in Texas, your home state. He has a team of engineers that he hired out of India. And nobody online knows that he's in middle school. And I think that will change the world, because these young people feel like there's nothing holding them back. The thing about cars is that there's been a long history of having emotional attachment to your car. And not so long ago, the way you kind of built that affection was tinkering under the hood. You changed the oil, you would replace the filters, new fan belts, whatever it is. But today, if you want to tinker with your car, you need a computer science or certainly some sort of advanced engineering degree, because it is, basically multiple computers on wheels. And so the concept of a car as mere transportation has become obsolete, and it does so many more things to understanding constant connectivity. And we know from a consumer standpoint that the level of online engagement that you have at home, at work, or at the office, you expect to have everywhere in between. And the car is now becoming excuse the pun, a vehicle to make that happen. Many people that think about the future have high hopes about the Internet of Things. And in my own thought process, it feels like the car is already the first node on the Internet of Things. And so maybe the lessons that the auto industry is learning now will set a compass for other categories that will start to kind of embrace themselves as an extension of the Internet of Things.